Hi, it's Celia Lopez. Welcome to this new tutorial in which we are going to see how to create this product package made with Spline and how to create it from scratch. So let's do it. Welcome to this tutorial. So in this tutorial we are going to see how to recreate from scratch this product showcase made into Spline, how to create the scene plus the material and lighting. We are going to recreate it together from scratch, and on the left of my screen I'm going to let the holder project I've already done, and on the right I'm going to just have the scene and we are going to create it together. So first of all I'm going to recreate the scene, then the material, and then adjusting the lighting. Okay, so let's go. So I'm going to delete this and recreate the spheres, etc. So for that I'm clicking on the plus and I'm going to select sphere. Press shift and create the sphere. Press Ctrl plus D to duplicate the sphere and press shift to reduce proportionally. Before I'm going to duplicate again, I'm going to decrease the number of sides of this sphere to 20 because it's not going to be visible, and we have to remember that we are in real time, and in real time we have to keep in mind the performance of our scene. So for example, this one I can decrease it also to 50 because it's a big sphere, so if I decrease too much it's going to be visible, but all the other can be 20 or 30. For example, for this one it's going to be 30. So I'm going to press Ctrl plus D and duplicate again. Command plus shift to maintain the proportion, and now I'm going to click on the green dot to have a top view and to adjust from the top view. Command plus shift to maintain the proportion. Command plus shift to maintain the proportion. This one I'm going to increase because you can see that when the sphere is too big, if it's too low poly, it's going to be visible. Oops. Okay. Now I'm going to come back to the front view by clicking on the blue dot, and I'm going to add a placeholder for the product. I click on shift to maintain the proportion, but it's not really it's not really useful, so just create a product. Okay, I'm going to rename it placeholder product. Sorry if I do mistake on the title and everything, because sorry if my English is not perfect. And here I'm going to rename product showcase tutorial. Okay. Okay, so now that my spheres are here, I'm going to recreate the metaballs. So for that, I am Control plus D, so I duplicate a sphere, and I'm going to put it in the center by pressing S. What I'm going to do is Control plus D, so duplicate this sphere, Shift Command to reduce it proportionally, and place it more or less here. And now I'm going to click on this sphere and I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to select the vertex selection, and I'm going to select all the points more or less to this one, and I'm going to adjust by pressing Shift proportionally and help myself with the other sphere so I can see more or less where I have to stop my point. I'm going to remove the level so it's easier to see, and I'm going to, by clicking on loop cut, I'm going to add loop selection. And to select my loop selection, clicking on edge selection, double click on an edge to select the loop, and press Shift, press on the dot, and maintain the proportion. Again, and adjusting. I'm going to click again on loop cut, add a loop cut, and adjust. I'm going to click on edge slide and move my edge. And now if I add a subdivision level and I remove my sphere, I can see like a metaball, and I can adjust. I can even remove a line cut by double clicking on one edge and press D to remove an edge if I need. Okay, so now that I have my metaball, I can put my metaball where, oops, Control G to duplicate. Control D to duplicate. I can even, like if I want, I can even, if it's easy, I can even select some points and click, hold Shift and maintain the proportion, and I just like create like another shape of metaball. Like it depends what you want. I can like do that. Control D and a last one. Okay, let's say that the compo is enough. If I press S on the product by selecting the product, then I'm going to rotate the object is going to be in the center of my scene. So okay, let's say that it's enough. Now I'm going to create the materials and the atmosphere. So first of all, I'm going to create the background, and if you see, if it's enough visible, you can see that there is like a gradient on the background. I'm going to show you more explicitly. I don't know if it's if in English it's I can say that. You see that there is a gradient on the background. So Command D. This is what we are going to do. So for that, I'm going to add a rectangle on my scene. I press Shift to maintain the proportion. I click on the green dot, put my background on the background, and create a big rectangle. And to this rectangle, I'm going to lock it so that it's not, if I click on nothing, it's not going to be selected. It's going to be easier, you will see why. And I'm going to rename background. And what I'm going to do is to add this gradient on the background. So for that, I'm going to create a material for the background by clicking on the 4 dots, clicking on the plus. There is a material. I'm rename background. Okay, and I'm going to add a gradient. So that I'm going to select a depth layer and not a color layer. So I'm switching the color layer to the depth layer, and I'm going to just copy paste the colors here. C9099, and those are BEC7, C7. And also what I'm going to do is to smooth the transition between the two colors by clicking on smooth into the blending settings. And also what I'm going to finish to do for this material is to add a lighting, and I'm going to add a fong, but without shininess. And I'm going to bend with overlay my background. And what we can see is it creates shadows, but very neat shadows, and we don't want that. So to remove this shadow, we click on nowhere, and so that it opens the setting of the scene. And on the environment setting, I can switch from normal shadows to soft shadows, and ta-da! In 2 seconds, the shadows are already better. I can click on my light, and I can just adjust. For example, I know that I will decrease a bit the light, and I can adjust, but usually I'm adjusting at the end of my creation. So I will let this number for now. Okay, for the background. So now I'm going to create the sphere material. The sphere material are composed by several layers, mostly the depth layer. So it's, as you have seen for the background, depth layer are gradient layers, more or less. And so I'm going to remove, to hide each layer, and we are going to recreate each layers on this composition. So first of all, I'm going to create a material for each sphere, for all the spheres. So clicking on 4 dots, clicking on the plus, and I'm going to rename it spheres. And I'm going to select all my spheres and add my material. So it's not visible because I didn't change yet my material, but now if I change the color, all the spheres are going to have the same colors. So as you can see, we don't have color layer, we have depth layer. So I'm going to change color to depth, and I'm going to try to reproduce this this composition. So what you have to remember that with depth layer there is 2 ways to project your gradient. The first way is with a local source, I would say. That means that for each spheres, so if I decrease, no, if I, it's going to be more visible. If I join the 2 colors, and if I still be in the position local, that means that each sphere are going to be impacted the same way. So why some of them are the blue on top and why some of them has the blue on bottom is because I just rotate the sphere. But other way, each sphere so the code for this is says that for each sphere you have to apply the blue on top and the white on the bottom. But if I change, if I put on local, for example, the projection, like, how can I explain? It's not individual, but it's collective. So now if I join the 2 colors, we can see that the source is going to impact the spheres as if it was one object. Okay? I hope my explanation is enough. But this is the big difference between the 2. And what we are going to see in all the depth layers here is that I've played with these 2 kind of position of the source. So in this one it was local, and I've managed to have like blue on top and white on the bottom. So we are going to do the same. I just want to copy paste the 2 colors because it's easier. And then I'm going to adjust to have the same, more or less, the same result. So it's just a question of where my source start compared to like each object, compared to one object, and how far is going to be my white point and how far is going to be my blue point. So we just have to see what is the best for us. You can also change the position like that. So for example, if I see on top, yeah. I think like that is not that bad. Okay, so what we can see is that I have a big shadow here, and we are going to adjust in the same time. So my light are here, and here my light is here. So I'm going to just change so that maybe like that. The color of the background is not really beautiful. Ah, it's better. Yeah, I prefer like that. Okay. Now I'm going to add another depth layer. I'm going to remove this one so that it's visible. And on this one, you can see that there is gray layer. So it's more or less the same that I've done with the top blue layer. But this one is gray on bottom and transparent on the top. So transparent means that if I select my gray, it's going to be 100% visible. But if I select the opposition, the other color of the gradient, is going to be 0. I'm going to select my color. So it's CBD4D9. And I'm going to do the same. CBD49, 100%. And I used to copy paste even if I put on 0%. And I'm going to adjust. It looks like it's not. I'm going to change a bit the color because I don't know, I feel that it's not really gray. Okay. Oops. Okay. So now I have my green on top and my gray on bottom. And the gray is maybe, yeah, like that. And what I used to do is for each layer, no, this one no. I was about to lie. Okay, so this one, what is it? A bit of white and with transparent. So we can, when it's like more or less the same, we can just click on the right click of your mouse for duplicate a layer, and we can just change the color. So here I'm going to, I guess it's almost right. And I'm going to change the position on, like, it's more or less like that. And this one is 30. And is this one, no, it's normal. Okay. Okay, what's the next layer? The next layer is lighting. I used to, oops, I don't have to put lighting, I just have to select my lighting. And I used to put fong, like I've told you for the background. I used to remove the shininess here, so 0. And here I will copy paste the color. It not really impact my object, but sometimes. And for the lighting, I used to put it on overlay. So for now, it's like that. So what we are missing, it is the you know, the white border that makes the sphere super smooth, like if it was a velvet or something. And this is what we are going to do now. So this depth layer is almost the same that a Fresnel, and so I'm going to remove this so you are going to see. So it's transparent on the middle and it's white on the border. So I'm going to do the same, adding a depth layer, adding so it's right, yes, right, and I'm going to put right too, but 0%, and I'm going to adjust. So actually it's the opposite. Oops, no, I don't want to add a color. I just want to slide. It's more like that. Yes, it's more like that. And you can see that is 50, so I'm going to put 50, and maybe no. Okay. And the Fresnel is going to add like a layer of brightness, I would say. And so I'm going to add a Fresnel. So, and here I can see that I've put 40, and I can change some parameters. Actually, it depends of what I want exactly, but yeah, let's say that this one is enough, and I will bend my Fresnel to my depth layer by putting overlay. So it's not that bad, it's cool. Maybe I can increase the blue. No? What do you think? Maybe I can increase a bit. Yeah, like that. And now, I don't remember. Oh yes, okay. So, as I've told you, there is two ways of projection for a gradient. The local, so it impacts each object the same, or world, in it impacts all the objects like if it was one object. So local is impacts the object separately, and world it impacts the objects together. So here what I've done is like I will show you. It's like the product color impacts the spheres. It's like ambient occlusion. I think it's ambient occlusion. It's like it was ambient occlusion. Okay. So what we are going to do is to create a new depth layer. I think you are going to be a pro of adding a depth layer. And as I can see, as I've told you, not going to impact each object separately, but all the objects together. So I click on the world position, and I'm going to see where is the middle
of the object so that it looks like it's a product that impacts my spheres. And I'm going to copy past R0, C1, C5, and here copy past 2 and put it on 0. Okay. I hide so that you can see clearly. I think it's like too blue. It's not really beautiful. And why I always select, like, even if my color is on 0, you can see that, for example, if I change to red, you can see that there's still the gradient is still visible from the other color. So that's why I used to, when I have like a 0% color, I used to copy paste the same color. So there is no weird gradients in between. Maybe oops. This one is cool. Okay. And as you can see, it's like 47, but I will put 50. And it's going to be more or less the end. But there is 2 other depth layer. This one is for the shadow of the product. So it's always the same, like a color and gradient to transparent color. So what I'm going to do is to click on the depth, click right, duplicate, and select. So I'm going to put 100%. I'm going to put this color so it's more visible, and I'm going to change the position like that, and I'm going to copy paste, so I'm not going to have real results. Copy paste, and here also copy paste. I'm going to smooth the transition, and I'm going to decrease this and increase this, but I'm going to, yes, I'm going to slide the color on the gradient. I don't know how to say in English, to this gradient. And 50. Okay, and now the last one. The last one is like gray. It's transparent to gray, but for all the objects. So I'm going to duplicate this one, and it's going to be 40, and it's going to be which color? Tell me which color. Okay.
Oh, I'm going to put 100 so that it's visible. Okay, I can't see, so I'm going to remove, to hide. Okay, so it's the opposite. Oops. Oh. I'm going to put the transparent in the inner, and yeah, it's more like that. But what I don't understand is why it's white and I want gray. Ah, yes, it's because I've put it on multiply. Okay, and that's it, I think. I'm going to click on smooth. And now we have all the layers of our sphere. Yeah, it's cool. What is not cool, I mean, what I don't like is the shadows, you know, there is shadows here, I don't want it. So maybe what I can do is to blur a bit more. You can see, like, if I put to 0 each, it's very neat, but if I increase the penumbra and the blur, you can see that the shadows are visible but less visible. And this is what I want for this. And now what we have to do is to create our product. What I want to change here is the Fresnel. I want it more visible, like that. Like that, it's cool, I think. Yes. So what I've done, what I've done for the project is I click on library and I selected cosmetic. I selected drop bottle. I've done this for the library of Spline several months ago, and I've put my bottle here. And the only thing that I've done, I mean, for the topology, is that I've double click on the product. I selected this, and I have selected all the dot here, and we'll do that. Also, I've done that. I've done that. I've double click here and I've done that. I double click here and I've done that. I even double click here and I've done that. And I've done that. Yes. Oops. I've done that more or less. I have done that, and then I removed each level of the cap, and I've put the cap. I think I even removed this part, and what I've done, I think was to select all the triangle here. I will decrease so that it's okay. And I've selected all the triangles. Verify that. Press S. Oops. Press S. Remove by clicking on Shift. Remove the polygons that I don't want to be selected, and adjust until the red arrow change. You see? So I do that. I do that. And then increase. Remove the placeholder. Put the product in the middle of my sphere. And change a bit the rotation. Okay, so this is how I've created the product here. And now we are going to do the material of this product. So the bottle, I've changed the color, so I'm going to duplicate. The lighting, I think, is the same. I didn't change anything. The matte cap is the same. Didn't change anything. The depth is not the same, so I'm going to duplicate, copy, paste 5ACOB4. I've added a gradient. Oh. It's usually super simple to add a color, but okay. Okay, and here I will change also 1 3 3 2 3 1, and I'm going to put smooth on the gradient, and I'm going to change a bit like that, and I think okay. And now the Fresnel, is the Fresnel the same? Yeah, more or less. And the glass, I'll remove the matte cap, and I'm going to add a glass layer, and I think the glass layer is on overlay, and I think I didn't change that much. Yes, I changed blur to 20, and I think I didn't change that much. I decrease a bit the Fresnel, and yeah, I think the light is not exactly the same, so that's why it's more intense here. But yeah, and to finish the cap, so on the cap there is a depth map, depth layer, I'm going to copy paste. So I change color into depth, and I'm going to copy paste. Oops. And the lighting, I used to put it on overlay, but this one is not. So is the lighting the same? I change it a bit like that. I've added a Fresnel. Trick a bit the values. And put the bending on screen. Put 80 to this, and I've added a matte cap. I always use the same matte cap, the last one, and put it on screen. And that's it. That's it. I'm just going to trick a bit the values. Maybe the light. Ooh. Ah yes, intensity is 0.5. Ta-dam! There is something that I want to add also to my scene, is a fog. I mean, if I switch the background of my scene is not the same color, so I'm going to click here to use this and to select the border so that it's the same color, and that's it. And yes, what I want to do is to I'm going to verify that my scene is optimized. Okay, so I can add fog, and the fog actually is like this. I'm going to use the background, and I'm going to so that it's more visible, more neat, but the border are more are more blurry. It's more visible like that. I'm going to do that, and yes, and I'm going to tweak a bit the value of the spheres. So sorry, because it's a last minute trick, but I don't know, I'm not 100% satisfied. Oh. Yeah, it's better like that. And ta-dam, finished, guy. I hope you liked it, and see you soon in a new tutorial.